generated like $1 million in revenue in 4 months.
Welcome to the Eddy Garcon podcast. This is the very first podcast, and we have an amazing guest here. Unique Media Group's very own Carlos Corona is in the house. I mean, I'm telling you, this guy, he's magnificent at what he does. Affiliate Marketer of the Year, Carlos Corona, just been awarded an AFI Award winner, and is just a trailblazer in his own right. And we're excited to have him. Carlos Corona, thank you for being here, brother. How you doing?
Good, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, sir. I mean, man, look, I think we all know that Miami, it's just boisterous with marketers.
Yeah.
And, it's hard to stand out. It's hard to be, one like such yourself, recognized for the things that you do. And with a lot of viewers kind of getting into that space of marketing and stuff like that, just really want to know kind of what's the story, man? What's the foundation? What has gotten you here? Where was the start? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'll tell you. I'll dive into it, and I'll paint the whole picture so you can kind of see what I went through. But Miami has it all, right? It's the good thing about affiliate marketing or marketing, digital marketing in general, is usually you have high returns, right?
100%.
And if you have high returns, that means you have more buying power. So where do you want to be? So Miami has it all, right? It has the weather, it has a culture, and access to the rest of the world.
Huge.
So that's something that plays major part. As far as myself, I struggle a lot. Yeah, I struggle a lot because for the most part, I'm self-taught. So back when I was in college, I got a PDF from Perry Marshall. And it was the ultimate guide to Google Ads. At the time, Google AdWords. And back then, this was like 2005, 2006.
Wow, so fresh.
Yeah.
Wow.
This was like, there was no like YouTube. So you had to like
Literally.
read a PDF.
Open a book.
Yeah, you had to
Google
print it out.
Yeah,
You had to print it
100%,
out because you didn't
100%.
want to pay for like the copy to be mailed to you.
Wow.
So you print it out, and then I start reading it, and it started making a lot of sense to me, and I start like buying media at the time without knowing that I was buying media. I was running ads in Google, and I was running ads that were for physical products. So I was running ads for like name fragrances, like perfumes and stuff like that. And then I developed a company around that. So I set up a company, and then we started wholesaling perfumes. What I employ, like my mom came to help me out.
What?
At the time, my girlfriend, my dad was helping me out with deliveries. There was no Uber delivery or nothing like that. So we're talking like 2006, 7, right? And then I was able to buy media online because I kind of knew Google, but I was also opening business around that. So I was working there myself all the time, and it was limited by what I can produce, in there. And then I opened a logistic company and so on, right? So that was the early beginnings. And at the time, I was also doing websites for business owners. Like, hey, you need a website? Like, I'll help you out. And I'll either do it myself, or I taught a friend how to do it, so he will do it for me, or outsource it to another country or whatever. And at the time, my idea was pretty simple. It was like, don't pay me for a website. Instead, just give me 25 cents for every phone call that I send your business, right? Yeah, just 25 cents. I build your website. I put in my phone number.
It's a deal.
Yeah, well, 2009, nobody wanted that deal.
What?
Nobody wanted that deal.
Sure, they're regretting it now.
Yeah, so it was like not a good deal at the time, right? And I don't know why. Maybe because I was young, or maybe because pay-per-call wasn't really a thing like it is now. So I forgot about that. I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to keep charging for websites, and I'm going to keep doing my thing. And then you fast forward to 2018, right? That I was kind of officially done with like the brick and mortar type of business and that mindset. So I, forget about that. And then fast forward to that, I'm generating leads for a friend of mine Bobby. I don't know if you've seen Bobby in the building.
Possibly, yeah.
He's a Cuban American guy. He owns the Sushi Sake franchise. So they have like 32 stores here in South Florida. But one of his companies is a claims company. They do water damage and claims like that. And I'm generating leads for him. And then I'm like, yo, Bobby, like I want to generate leads like all over the U.S. I just don't want to generate leads in South Florida, Miami-Dade County. Like, we could be making a lot more money if we went to nationwide, right? If we went nationwide.
Back in 2018,
this is 2018, end of 2018. And then he tells me, maybe you should look for a company. Look for a company out there that will buy these calls, that will buy these leads. And it triggered that from 2009 that I was thinking about calls. I'm like, I wonder if somebody will buy a call. So I went to Google and I typed in, who will buy water restoration calls. Boy, oh boy, there was a whole industry that was there, like a $13 billion industry in pay-per-call and performance marketing, especially call-driven performance marketing. And that's when I was like, wow. So I contacted the company right away. I'm like, look, I can generate these calls. They told me, nope, you have no references. We don't know who you are. Like, we don't want to do business with you. And I'm like, man. I contacted another company, and they said, yes. At the time, it was Mike and Tim from 33 Mile Radius. And they were like, yeah, we will gladly test out your calls. And I start sending them calls. I think like the first week I made like $800, and by the second week I was up like $2,000. Wow. And I couldn't believe it. So I stopped sending them calls because I wanted to make sure I got paid. So I was like, I haven't received payment, bro. And if you guys don't pay me, like, this is it. And it was like, can you just relax? You've been with us for less than a week. It takes time for you to get your first payment. I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm telling Bobby, and Bobby's like, yo, just relax. Thursday, boom, I get my first payment. It was like almost like $2,800. And I was like, hey, man, this is it. This is for a little test campaign that I'm doing. Let's scale this baby up. And we did, and it's now an 8-figure a year business. So we'll definitely scale it up.
Wow. So you're telling me an idea that you essentially quit on 10 years prior becomes the wealth creation for you, your family, your company, essentially.
Correct.
And so back in 2018, now when you're, of course, you're doing all these other businesses, you're trying to put it together, you're trying to figure it out. At this point, I'm sure you have much more experience. You've probably failed at some companies.
Yeah.
What was that? Because obviously, again, the first time came, you're like, I don't know, but that second time that came around, what motivates you and be like, you know what, it didn't work out the first time, but what drove you to get to this point now after all that failure, all that stuff, all those no's these companies were telling you?
I think that when I saw that there was an industry out there, and when I saw that there were networks and there were companies, and then it all makes sense. Why is there so many call centers, right? Trying to get in contact with anybody, and you end up in a call center. And then I had that moment, like late, but I had it, that it clicked on me, like, oh, wait a second. And then I started doing home services. So I started doing plumbing, like a lot of plumbing calls, water damage, mold remediation, pretty much anything that was a cause of a water problem at your house, right? Carpet cleaning, biohazard cleanup. So I started doing that, and that was doing pretty well, right? It was nothing like groundbreaking, but it was doing pretty well. Yeah. And from there, I shifted into other verticals. So I was like, let me try running like dental. Let me try running like other things that will, also make money, like emergency. And what really changed everything, it was literally one campaign. You know how they say, like, you have one campaign and one funnel or one email or one phone call or one everything, one meeting away, right? So It was literally one campaign, and it was a flight campaign. Yeah, it was it was a flight campaign, and that really was.
Wow. So essentially, you start working on all these different businesses, and I'm assuming because you were focusing on water, that same data that you were generating for these companies, and of course they're winning. They're getting calls every single day. They're getting appointments every single day set in their calendar. They're closing deals. And at that same time, you're thinking about different ways to, expand your business, expand your company. Now, obviously, when most businesses start, they try to scale very fast. Like, hey, I'm start this thing, I'm start that thing. What made you a little bit more comfortable to trying, these different sub-markets and, generating new data for people and businesses you probably never, knew much about?
Most of them have been just coincidence.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, most of them have just been like an example of flights, right? Before that, I was testing campaigns that I would think that they will do well, right? It was just me like, I think this will do well. Yeah. Like I run credit repair. I'll run, final expense. I run this and run that. But I was taking my daughter to a pediatrician appointment, and at the time, this was kind of recently, like 2020. It was COVID, and it could only be one of us up there. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'll stay in the car. And like usual, and then I stayed in the car. When I was in the car, I was watching a YouTube video about flights, about like flight calls, and they were mentioning that there's volume in flight calls, and then that I should look into it. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, flight calls. Like, who really books flight? So a friend of mine called me, and she's like, hey, can you generate some flight calls? And I was like, interesting. I just saw a video about flight calls. Like,
so literally. Out of nowhere. That was
out of nowhere.
Really coincidence.
Out of nowhere. I just saw a video about flight calls. Like, who buy? Answer me this, Tina. Her name is Tina. I'm like, answer me this, Tina. Like, who buys, a plane ticket over the phone? Like, who does that? Right?
Yeah.
She's
it's
like,
2020.
I'm like, everybody. I'm like, no. I'm like, don't you use an app? Like, that's what normal people do. Like, I was like, no. Like, just look into it, please. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll look into it. No guarantees. I'll look into it, and I'll let you know. So I go ahead and set up the campaign. And then I set up the campaign, it took me like an hour or something like that. And then I, turned it on, and it was sent to review. And I forgot about it. I forgot that I set up the campaign. And then 4 days later, I see a huge spike in phone calls coming in. And all the phone calls were dropping. They were not connecting. When I set up the campaign, I only set up the front part of it.
So you didn't really think it was going to go anywhere.
I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. And then I forgot to actually connect it to a target, to a call center, so the call will route properly.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. And long story short, that campaign generated $1 million in revenue in 4 months. And yeah. And that was really I'd done 7 figures before, but not so fast. Not in one campaign, So that was a campaign that I truly got to scale. The traffic was 100% my traffic, so I was the only one generating the calls for that. And it was the way that I did it that later on I broke it down and I made it into a course that people can, now watch and do it. But it was the way that I did it that it was not what everybody else was doing. And I wasn't really looking I'm going to do that. I was like, let me see if this works. And that was really what pushed me, right? But after that, I had a moment that kind of changed everything, because what I did is I created a challenge, right? And it was a challenge where I will go ahead and go on YouTube, on Facebook Live for 3 days, right? And I will show you exactly step by step what is it that you need to do to generate phone calls. And, whoever wins the challenge at the end of the 30 days, meaning whoever generates the most revenue, gets $10,000. So that challenge brought in like a whole more people than I was expecting.
Wow.
Right? So literally like over 100 people joined that challenge from my Facebook friends, right? Without promo or anything. I just, put it out there. Yeah. And the challenge brought in a whole bunch of people. But up until that point, and I'll tell you why the story of the challenge, because up until that point, I was generating the traffic like pretty much all by myself.
Yeah.
I was doing all the media buying, all the creatives, everything I was doing by myself. Yeah, it was a lot of work. It's not easy. It's good money, but it's a lot of work. And then when I created the challenge, and I pretty much grabbed like, look, this is how I do it. Like, this is a formula. This is a step-by-step, record it for the first time, and now you guys can do it. It took us 10 days to generate 7 figures, where it took me 4 months to do it on my own.
And that's huge, though, because like a lot of people want to do it on their own. They want to feel like, oh, I did this. It's prideful. But when you worked with a team and you let people come in, that's where things change.
Yeah. So, and then after that, I was like, I looked at my business partner, Clayton, and like, bro, we just got to tell everybody how is it that we do it. Like, if we see people as competitions or haters or anything, we're really not going to get to the next step. How we're going to get to the next step is by winning them with transparency and with trainings and education. Because if I bring you into the business, I'm transparent with you from the beginning, and I show you exactly what I know, with the end goal that I will buy, like that you will do business with me, that I will buy your calls or that you will buy my calls, right? A lot of the other companies are not doing that. They don't want to share people what they're doing because they don't want competition. So I always tell, that's like Michael Jordan being like, you know what? I don't want anybody else to know how to play basketball because I only want to play basketball. It's never going to work. It's not going to be a game, right? So I tell other people, you need somebody to come in and challenge you on your skills to see that, what you come up with, what solution do you find? Because if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, you are, your main skill is, solving problems.
20%.
Every business owner that I know, they can tell me they're great at whatever it is, solving a problem.
Yeah.
Right? So that's you have this challenge that is going to make you solve that problem. So you have somebody that comes in and is going to like do better numbers than you, then now you got a problem, right? You be like, man, how can I solve that?
100%.
How can I beat this guy?
And it's okay though, because I think so many times people, are starting great companies like yourself. You've done really good in the beginning. And it's like, I want to get to the next level. I want to scale. And, I know, and you feel like you can get some form of complacency from it. Like, I know everything. I've made the money. There's no one else that can tell me what to do. But so much, I feel like that's where entrepreneurs fail, because not only are you solving problems, but you're really in position to be as resourceful as possible. And humans are the best resource, because if you don't got no one to bounce ideas back and forth, whenever you're stuck for sure.
Yeah, totally.
And you said a very big thing, like about problems. Like when it comes to marketing, it's not easy. I mean, like when you said that you did your own creatives, that's just not creatives to everybody. That's creatives. That's ad copy. That is plugging it from the back end to actually get the calls. Like doing all those things. How does one, again, because you're coming across problems every single day. How do you remain in the mentality to stay consistent? Like no matter what comes on my plate, and growing this team and teaching other people that no matter what, I can be successful at what it is I'm doing.
Yeah, so by forcing yourself to do it, right? So what I did, what I did is when I started like sharing with people how to do all this stuff, I opened up a calendar, and then if you had any issues, and I don't do that anymore, but at the time, I open up a calendar, and then if you had any issues, you can book a Zoom call with me, and we'll jump on the call, and we'll fix it right there and then. What happens is I was like 7-8 hours a day on Zoom calls.
Wow.
Right? Because everybody was booking calls back to back to back. And I was like, man, this is too much. But that taught me a huge lesson, which is like if you practice something every single day, you're going to get good at it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I got really good at setting up accounts, new accounts, tracking, integrations, creative testing, because I was doing it every single day.
And you're teaching people too.
And then I'm teaching you how to do it, but I'm also doing it, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm doing it in my account, so you can copy it. So I'm kind of like working on my stuff, So by doing that, you just get good at it. And then once you're good at something and you're being rewarded for that, you're just going to naturally incline into like being the best at whatever it is that you do, right? Like, you don't want to be better than anybody. Like, I don't personally want to be better than anybody, but I definitely want to be better than I was like
yesterday,
a few days ago, a week ago, whatever. 100%. Yesterday, correct.
I mean, I think so much as an entrepreneur, like when you kind of get outside that bubble and outside of yourself and you look at yourself like, man, the only way that I do get somewhere is if I'm constantly refining myself day in and day out. And to be honest, teaching others and like actually, guiding them while you're guiding yourself is probably one of the best ways to refine yourself because it's reps. You're getting reps every single day, new ads, new creatives, new things. So, I mean, we all know that, right now, economically, the landscape is changing, right?
Yeah.
Businesses have to be different. They need to do different. Especially me, I'm a realtor. So it's like there's a sea of realtors. And, as an affiliate marketer, as someone who's out there in that space, crushing it, what do you guys do or how do you guys think differently in comparison to all these other marketing agencies saying they could do the same thing, if not better? Like, how do you guys enter that creative space?
Yeah, I totally get it. We are like we're in the performance marketing space. So pretty much what that means is that you need to, we get paid for results. So we're not on retainer.
100%.
Right? So a lot of agencies out there, right? Everybody has different business model, but for the most part, most people are taught how to make a marketing agency.
Yeah.
And what they're teaching people is how to go and find for small business owners, put them on retainer and outsource it to somewhere else, right? So what happens is that, everything is being done, but the quality could be questionable or hard to track for the most part, right? And it's not a model that you can necessarily scale as fast as performance marketing.
Okay.
So normally we are the one that kind of like choose what offers we want to run, and then there's call centers and partners that we will do business with that have the capacity to handle the volume that we're expected to send, right? So normally we work with call centers that have like 300 to 500 people on the floor, right? To be able to handle like thousands of calls per day, right? And make it worthwhile on our end, right? So we wouldn't work with like smaller, right? So that take us out of there, kind of like enterprise business model, right? So because of that, you generate volume, it's easier to work with. Now, if I was in the position of helping out a smaller agency, right? Like somebody that wanted to like get somebody like you, a realtor, to spend money on marketing to get results, I wouldn't do it. I personally wouldn't do it.
It'd be more difficult for them to understand.
Yeah, what I would tell you is for you to either yourself or hire somebody that works for your company to learn lead gen or have knowledge of lead gen and execute it for yourself. Like, it also comes with your capital and cash flow, right? I think that the biggest mistakes that most small business owners make is that they hire cheap talent.
100%.
Right? 100%. So the biggest mistake that I see is that business owners will hire, thinking about their pocket, and not the potential outcome. So if you go right now and you are a realtor, and you go and you hire a marketer that that is going to charge you like 40, 50, 60, $70,000 a year to do marketing for you, you're just going to get another one out of the stack, right? If you hire one that's going to charge you like 175, 225, 250, that's your guy. Like, there's a reason why he's charging that, because he's 100% confident that his output is way more than what he's asking for.
Quality of the leads.
Right? So now you're going to have a whole set of different issues. It's not going to be the marketing and the leads. It's going to be the back end to fulfill that.
That's the reason why the model with the enterprise is having people to follow up the leads, having people to nurture the leads until appointment is huge.
Correct.
And so I want to kind of focus on that right there, because again, I and probably many people don't necessarily understand to the depth of like the difference of performance marketing in comparison to affiliate marketing. Now, for me as an outsider in the industry, I'm starting to really recognize how important the performance marketing is. I mean, what do you see in the next 5 to 10 years with the performance marketing industry in regards to delivering your clients, your businesses, those type of quality leads in comparison to like those other models?
Yeah. So there's a lot of regulation going on in the industry currently. Most of the regulations that we're seeing that are getting signed or either close to going effective are regulations that are preventing like consumer complaints, that are creating consumer complaints, right? Such as outbound dialing, the 50 million calls that you get about auto warranty and all that stuff, right? Spamming, like SMS spamming and stuff, getting random text messages or getting like random voicemails or filling out a form on a website and then getting 20,000 calls nonstop back to back. So there's a lot of regulation that is coming to prevent that, right? Because there's a lot of consumer complaints. So in the next 5 years, what we're going to notice, or what I think is going to happen, is that you're going to see a lot of the small players just not make it, right? And the ones the bad actors in the industry that are not playing by the rules, they're going to get, compliance is going to crush them.
Yeah.
So there's going to be even more opportunities for those of us that want to do the right thing and generate calls the right way and do customer acquisition the right way, right? So I think the market is going to increase. I think it's going to become bigger. I think that companies are getting used to like paying per result works better than just throwing, out there to see what they can catch. Because it comes down, in our industry, comes down to CPA, and CPA means like cost per acquisition. So let's say that if you write like, if you write like a final expense insurance policy and you're getting paid like, $700 to give you an example, right? And it costs you $175 to sell the policy.
Yeah.
Right? Then it's a profitable business for you. You will pay $175 all day to collect $7, right? So that is performance marketing. You're paying for that result. So I think that model is going to keep increasing because the cost is predictable for the advertiser, and it's also predictable for the publisher.
100%.
So it will keep increasing, and I think that a lot of people in the industry and the online marketing industry that currently do other things like e-com, just regular CPL and CPA and stuff like that, they're moving towards pay-per-call, and there's a huge rush into pay-per-call right now because how profitable it is and the demand from it, from advertisers that depend on these calls to generate sales.
It's huge. I mean, when you really think about it, and especially from a enterprise level, I mean, if you're able to generate, and I've seen, amazing things you and Unique Media Group has been doing. You guys are generating thousands of calls to these businesses. I mean, a real business, like you said, all they need to focus on is no longer the front end things, because you guys are taking that and need to work on their back end. Now, what struggles have you seen from businesses that, you know, they were able to afford the lead generation, but their actual systems, their processes couldn't really handle
correct.
Like, how do you help your clients navigate through that, you know, to receive that much business?
A lot of them are experienced and they know exactly what is it they're doing. But in general, it just comes down to being a human.
Yeah.
You know, most of the time agents have a good day, a bad day.
Yeah.
They could have family problems, issues. They could have a sore throat, not feel like being there.
Yeah.
So it's just, you know, you have to understand that you're dealing with humans. And you have to understand, in the case of pay-per-call, that for every one phone call that is live, there's another human at the end talking to that person. So it's it's a multiple of two now, right? So that also limits on how fast you can, or how much you can scale, because it will be really hard to have like 25, 30,000 people talking at the same time, because it will require 70,000 people.
100%.
Right?
100%.
So, but with that being, you know, in there, what we normally see that the problems are from, you know, like I said, humans having bad days, then technologies and things that are like that, right? That relates to either having bad tech or an agent that is not performing, or they have no internet or something like that, and it affects it. But for the most part, because these are like seasoned players, everything runs pretty smooth.
And the truth is, they're going to keep building. And truthfully speaking, good quality leads, like you said, is starting to be such a high demand because of the complaints. And so if they're working alongside an agency like Unique Media Group, and they're receiving these incentives, receiving these great leads, they want to continuously build with you guys.
Correct.
And I remember in the speech that you give when you're getting your award for, you know, Affiliate of the Year, you mentioned about building trust with your clients, building a real relationship, which I think is kind of pushed to the side nowadays. People are looking for that quick buck. They're looking for, you know, in and out. How do you really emphasize relationships with your clients that you're working with, these businesses, you know, long term?
Yeah, well, we're a people first company, right?
100%.
So we do business with people. You know, they work for companies, but we do business with people, right? 100%. So we like to build that trust, and just for everybody in the team, we like to make sure that, you know, we're transparent with what we're saying we're going to do. We're accountable for what we say we're going to do. And then we deliver, you know, what we say we're going to deliver. And usually that's like, you know, like a no BS approach. Like, this is what we can do and this is what we cannot do.
Yeah.
And that eliminates also a lot of the people that we can work with. Yeah. Because when you have a strict set of rules and you don't want to bend them, right? Or you tell everybody, hey, make sure that nobody bend, these are the rules. Then it brings in the ideal partner that you want to work with.
Yes.
The problem comes when we're trying to like, oh no, but this one wants it this way and this one wants another way. And before you know, your team is all over the place. So that's what we like to do. We like to structure things so they run like you know, like they're supposed to. And then that way it builds trust with people. And then we also like to do masterminds where we bring people in and we network. And, you know, we do dinners at all the events that we go to and the small gatherings. And any excuse that we have, whether to play golf or go fishing or anything else that we can talk. And then from talking, ideas come up, and some of those ideas make it into production, and eventually they turn into something great.
And I think that's a huge thing to emphasize on right now, you know, networking. You know, I think, you know, when you look at it 10 to 15 years, networking was still kind of in the books. Yeah, let's go network, let's go do things. But now I think it's really taken on a new role. I know you yourself, you help, like you said, hundreds, if not thousands of affiliates, thousands of performance marketers, you know, try to get footing in this industry, which is not easy. You know, how important is networking for someone looking to get into these type of spaces and, you know, share these type of creative ideas, you know, to grow?
Huge. Huge. I think it's vital. I think that if you're going to jump into affiliate marketing, performance marketing, you have to become a professional networker.
100%.
You have to go to the events. You have to go to the conferences. You have to show up. You have to have a firm handshake, some type of digital or physical business card, and you have to deliver on what you say that you do, because it's a small industry after all. So networking is a huge part, because you never know that one contact, that one campaign, that one thing that you can learn from somebody that can change everything for your business, right? So I love to network. I'm the type of guy that whenever I go to a conference, I make sure to grab every single card that and every single booth. So I go and grab everything, because you never know, like, really when you're going to be doing business with somebody or not. So yeah.
And I think it's huge, because from what I'm hearing, when you're talking about marketing, you're talking about expanding a business's reach to its consumers. There's a lot of ideas that got to come into place. And not only just ideas, the thing I really love about marketing is you have to turn something from what's in your mind into what's in reality. It's easy for you to be like, you know what, this PPC stuff, it looks pretty interesting, but you took an idea that, was something you kind of fledged off 10 years ago and was able to turn it into reality. Now, a lot of entrepreneurs are kind of in that same boat. They have an idea. They have, some sort of ambition to make something happen for their life. What advice would you kind of give them to, make that pivot in their life?
Just to do what they like to do, right? Because there's many ways to define success,
100%.
Right? A lot of us will define success using financial standards, right? How successful is your company? Most people are not asking, like, how many lives did you save? They're asking how much money you make, right?
It's not the same.
So it depends how you define success. But you have to do something that you like so you can be successful at it. Whether that is a for-profit or non-for-profit, right? So you're still an entrepreneur either way. So do something that you like. And if you like the money, but you do not like the long hours of learning how to become an affiliate marketer, a media buyer, performance marketer, this is not for you, right?
I mean, and that's huge, because I'm not gonna lie, you guys. Trying to set up a campaign for the first time, it could get irritating. You're talking about, you got to make sure things are on point, because it could be the most simplest things: the color of a button, the line of a small description or copyright. Like, you have to be very detail orientated to grow in those fields. But again, Carlos, I do want to, thank you for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you.
I think that, with the performance marketing, that there's going to be so much opportunity for what you guys are doing at Unique Media Group. And that, for a lot of people out there looking and watching what you guys do and, continue paving that path, I think there's going to be a lot more to come. And hopefully we get to see it, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sir.
Pleasure having you. Thank you.
Sir.